said that you're still in the information gathering phase with Kobe and his injury. Does that mean that the reported 8 to 10 week timeline is not confirmed yet?
I don't know where you guys got that. Yeah, hasn't been said here, so I'll let you guys know whenever we know for sure what it looks like for him.
There is no update. He's continuing to rehab. That's it. That's the whole answer. 4 words and a shrug from Ben Johnson when he was asked point blank about one of his highest paid defensive backs. Now, I don't know about you, but when a head coach gives you that little to work with, that tells me something is going on behind the scenes that they are not ready to say out loud yet. And I've got a theory about exactly what that is, so let's get into it. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Chicago Bears Hub. I'm AJ LaMaestro, and if you're new here, because that quote just made you as suspicious as it made me, go ahead and get that subscribe button smashed, because we are grinding toward 5,000 subscribers, and I want you along for the ride. Today's episode has a little bit of everything. Some genuine concern about our best pass rusher, a full breakdown of why I think there's a real disconnect happening with Kyler Gordon, some encouraging injury recovery news, and a really strong finish from this offense in a 2-minute drill that deserves way more attention than it's getting. So let's roll through it all. First, let's talk about the 2 names that left practice today with real injury concern attached, because in my opinion, we need to be honest about which one actually threatens this season more. Braxton Jones left practice with what looked like a frustrating setback, slamming his helmet not once but twice, according to people who were on site, clearly not happy about whatever just happened to him. The good news, he was able to walk under his own power, so that's at least a small sigh of relief. But here's the layer that makes this one sting extra. Ben Johnson had said just this morning that the left tackle competition is still up for grabs, with real clarity expected sometime around the middle of next week. And Braxton Jones was actually set to start with the first team again today. In other words, he was right in the middle of grabbing hold of that job, building real momentum in this competition. And now we have to wonder what kind of setback this creates in that timeline. Kieran Amagaji, Jedrick Wills, and Theo Benedette remain the other options in that room, though from what I'm hearing, Benedette hasn't gotten much run specifically at left tackle. And the read right now is that the staff views him more as a swing tackle piece. Amagaji and Wills split reps with the ones for the rest of practice once Jones went down. So that's an opportunity sitting right there for both of them over these next few practices if Jones needs any real time. But here's my honest, unfiltered opinion on the day's 2 big injury scares, and I want you to actually think about this with me for a second. If you had to pick which absence would hurt this team more across an actual regular season, Braxton Jones or Montez Sweat, it is not particularly close, and it's Montez Sweat. Sweat also left practice today, escorted in by the training staff, walking to the building under his own power, which again, small relief. But think about the roster context here. This defensive line, if we're being completely honest with ourselves, is average at best right now without him. You lose your best defensive lineman off of a unit that's already not overflowing with proven difference makers. That is a major structural problem, not a depth chart inconvenience. Left tackle, meanwhile, is a genuinely uncertain competition, sure, but it's a competition with multiple bodies who can physically hold the job down in a pinch. The Bears do not have 4 capable Montez Sweats sitting on the bench. If Sweat misses real time, you're leaning on Austin Booker, who I'll say has been having a legitimately strong camp, and Dio Odenigbo, who has flashed in stretches but has also been kicked inside to the interior a fair amount this camp rather than playing exclusively off the edge. If Sweat is out for any real length of time, Dio likely has to live on the edge full time instead of rotating around, and that thins this pass rush out in a way that should genuinely worry this fan base. So in my mind, this is not a close call. Montez Sweat missing time is the far scarier headline of the 2, even though Braxton Jones' situation is the one generating more helmet throwing drama. Now, some legitimately encouraging injury news to balance things out. Shamar Turner, who started camp on the physically unable to perform list after tearing his ACL, was seen working out on a side field with the strength and conditioning staff, according to Courtney Cronin. That is a real, tangible sign of progress. A guy starting to slowly ramp up individual work again after a serious injury. I wouldn't expect him to be full go by week 1 personally. ACL recoveries just take the time they take. But any forward momentum on that front is genuinely good to see for a player this roster is going to need depth from eventually. Unfortunately, the secondary took 2 more hits today. Dallas Flowers, a local product who spent last year on the practice squad, appeared to be in real pain after an 11-on-11 period, looking like a right leg or knee issue, and had to be helped off the field with Ben Johnson himself and some teammates checking in on him afterward. And then safety Javarius Owens went down in pain after a special teams drill at the line of scrimmage. Now, look, in the grand scheme of a 53-man roster, is either one of these specific injuries the difference between this defense being good or not being good? Probably not on its own. But when you stack them up against everything else going on in that room right now, Kobe Bryant already down, Kyler Gordon's situation still murky, Elijah Hicks and Terrell Smith both not practicing right now. That secondary is getting thin fast, and thin secondaries get exposed the moment the regular season starts throwing live bullets at them. So while no single one of these injuries feels catastrophic in isolation, the cumulative effect is absolutely worth monitoring closely. Okay, now let's get into the Kyler Gordon situation, because I promise you my honest theory, and I'm going to give it to you straight. When a reporter asked Ben Johnson directly what the update was on Kyler Gordon at this point in camp, his answer was that short clipped line, no update, he's continuing to rehab. And in my opinion, sometimes a non-answer is actually the loudest possible answer if you pay attention to the tone and the body language behind it. I genuinely believe there is a real disconnect right now between this organization and Kyler Gordon. My honest read is that the Bears believe he should be further along, maybe even out there competing right now, and that Kyler Gordon on his end is saying he's still in pain and he's not ready. That's just the vibe I'm getting from how calculated and vague every single update from this staff has been. Think about the language trail here. Ryan Poles, heading into camp, talked about a delay with Gordon and notably did not use the word setback. In this league, at this level, word choice from front office and coaching staff is almost never accidental. These guys choose their language carefully, and when the specifics keep getting more and more vague instead of more clear, that tells me there's tension somewhere in that relationship that they're not ready to discuss publicly. And look, part of me genuinely feels for Kyler Gordon here because there's a real human element to this. He's dealt with a string of different soft tissue injuries over the last year, and I can't help but wonder if he's lost some trust in his own body at this point. We've seen this exact psychological pattern before with athletes in other sports. Get hurt enough times in a short window, and some guys just can't fully get back to trusting their body again, even once they're medically cleared. I'm not diagnosing him. I don't know what's actually going on in his head, but it's a pattern worth acknowledging. From the Bears side of things, they clearly need him. Jaylon Johnson is the outside corner locked in, but the nickel spot is currently being handled by Braxton Jones, with Malik Muhammad also getting a little run with the first team today. That tells me this coaching staff is preparing contingency plans as if Kyler Gordon might not be available, rather than confidently building the room around him. I don't think they're cutting him, to be clear. Cutting him now would cost roughly $10 million extra against the cap, and that's just not realistic. But I do wonder if there's a version of this where if he can't get right, this ends in a season-ending injured reserve stint followed by a roster move next offseason. I genuinely hope it doesn't come to that. If you're a Bears fan and you had to bet on Kyler Gordon being a real healthy contributor for Week 1, I want you to actually think hard about that answer before you comment it, because in my honest opinion, I don't think you can confidently say yes right now. I hope I'm wrong. I would love to be wrong here, but I'm not holding my breath. Now let's get to the more optimistic injury storyline of the day, because there is real reason for hope with Kobe Bryant. Remember, Adam Schefter initially reported an 8 to 10 week recovery window tied to that hyperextended knee, bone bruise, and small fracture. But during today's presser, when Ben Johnson was directly pressed on whether that specific 8 to 10 week timeline was accurate, his answer was essentially that he didn't know where that number originated and that it did not come out of the building. Now, he didn't confirm a shorter timeline outright, and I want to be careful not to overstate that, but there's a meaningful difference between a coach staying silent on a report and a coach actively pushing back on the number publicly. My honest take is that the key detail here is the small fracture. If this were purely a hyperextended knee and a bone bruise with no fracture at all, you'd probably be looking at something closer to a 4 to 6 week recovery. The fracture is what extends that timeline because bone has to fully heal on its own schedule. No amount of rehab intensity speeds that part up. So there's a real chance this lands somewhere in the range of 6 to 8 weeks rather than the full 8 to 10 originally reported. And there's cautious optimism building that Bryant could realistically be back around week 3 of the regular season instead of week 6. I'm hopeful there, Genuinely? All right. Let's shift gears completely and talk about the actual football, because this was, without a doubt, one of the most competitive back and forth practices of this entire camp. And the offense finished it in style. A few plays specifically stood out to me from today's session. Rome Odunze hauled in a 43-yard touchdown on a vertical shot from Caleb Williams, though there may have been a slight miscommunication on the back end of that coverage that helped spring it open. We'll see if the actual video clip surfaces to confirm that read. Caleb Raymond beat Devin Bush clean on a crossing route, put him on skates in the process, and picked up a good chunk of extra yardage after the catch, exactly the kind of play that gets Ben Johnson fired up on the sideline. And Colston Loveland caught a ball on the right side, broke through a defender, and turned it into a solid gain after the catch as well. 3 different explosive plays from 3 different key pieces of this offense in a single practice. That's a really encouraging sign of where this unit is trending. Tyreek Stevenson picked off another pass today, his second interception in the last 3 practices. And look, I want to be balanced about this the same way I've been in past episodes. There does appear to have been some assistance on this one, with the ball possibly getting tipped at the line by Javon Dexter before it sailed into Stevenson's hands, rather than it being a clean, contested individual effort. But I said this before, and I'll say it again, recognizing broken coverage or a deflected ball and actually finishing the play is a real skill in itself. Plenty of defensive backs let those exact opportunities go right through their hands. Stevenson is cashing in on them, and that matters heading into a contract year for him. Caden Davis continues to be one of the sneakiest storylines of this entire camp. This is a guy who's bounced around the league a little bit, mostly known as a returner, who had never caught a pass in a regular season game before this offseason, and he just keeps showing up in these practice reports. Today, he hauled in a really nice catch in the corner of the end zone off a pass from Case Keenum, adding to a stretch where he's already had a standout grab in 7-on-7 work as well. With the receiver room looking fairly locked in at the top with Luther Burden, Romo Dunze, Jaden Reed, Xavier Thomas, and Khalif Raymond as the presumed top 5, that 6th and final roster spot at the position is genuinely up for grabs. And in my opinion, Caden Davis is putting himself right into that conversation alongside Scotty Miller. If he keeps stacking plays like this into the preseason games, that battle could get very interesting. And don't sleep on Jordan Vandenberg either, because he continues to build a legitimately encouraging camp story of his own. He rotated in again today with the first-team defense during an inside run drill, and in one-on-one drills, he reportedly overpowered Logan Jones and shoved Luke Newman aside, 2 of this team's younger interior offensive linemen. For a 6th-round rookie to be doing that consistently through camp, that's a real meaningful sign. If this coaching staff simply reaches a point where they're comfortable rotating him into real regular season snaps as a rookie, that's a legitimate win for a pick that late in the draft, and it continues to look like exactly that kind of story unfolding in real time. Finally, let's talk about how this practice actually ended, because it was a genuinely great finish for this offense. In a simulated 2-minute situation, trailing by 3 points with a minute 41 left from their own 35-yard line, Caleb Williams went a perfect 6 for 6, capping the drive off with a touchdown throw to Luther Burden. 6 completions spread across 5 different targets, hitting Loveland, Raymond, Odunze, Swift, and Burden along the way. That's not just an impressive stat line. That's an offense showing real chemistry and real trust across multiple weapons in a high-pressure simulated situation. Given a scenario where a field goal alone would have only forced overtime, finishing the drive with an actual touchdown is exactly the kind of finish you want to see from a quarterback and an offense building real confidence heading into the regular season. So look, put it all together, and today gave us a real mixed bag. Genuine concern with 2 significant injuries in Braxton Jones and Montez Sweat. Real frustration and lingering questions about where things actually stand with Kyler Gordon. Some cautious optimism on the Kobe Bryant recovery front, encouraging progress from Shamar Turner working his way back from a torn ACL. And then, on the pure football side, one of the more complete competitive practices we've seen from this team all camp, capped off by a 2-minute drill finish that should genuinely excite this fan base heading into the season. Before you go, smash that like button if you got a theory of your own about what's really going on with Kyler Gordon, and drop it in the comments because I want to hear it. Let me know, too, Braxton Jones or Montez Sweat, which injury actually worries you more for this season? Because I already gave you my answer, and I want to hear if you agree or disagree. And if you're not subscribed yet, get that done right now. We are closing in on 5,000 subscribers, and I want every single one of you along for this ride through the rest of camp. This is AJ LeMaestro, Chicago Bears Hub, signing off. Bear down, everybody. Bear down.